It's a painful moment for him and his family. It's a very serious diagnosis. It seems to me entirely inappropriate that at this moment in time, when President Biden is dealing with a serious and aggressive form of cancer, there are Republicans who are peddling conspiracy theories.
Do you think that it's time to pass the baton to a new generation of leadership, or do you think Joe Biden is the strongest candidate to defeat Donald Trump?
Well, Joe Biden is definitely the strongest candidate to defeat Donald Trump.
Peddling conspiracy theories.
17 different United States intelligence agencies have concluded that Vladimir Putin and his Russian operatives interfered with our election in order to help Donald Trump. Russia interfered with our election. 17 different intelligence agencies have concluded it was done specifically to help Donald Trump.
This was put out there as weaponized information. We've talked about weaponized information here several times over the past 5 months. This was put out there for purposes of the Democrat Party, people like Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, all the others, to put this up as a weapon against President Trump. And if simply put, the mainstream media colluded with the president, with the Democrat Party to go against the president.
There are Republicans who are peddling conspiracy theories.
What we've seen basically is that the Trump administration has been characterized by 5 things: chaos, crisis, confusion, corruption, and criminal activity.
Peddling conspiracy theories.
Hakeem Jefferies tweeted, "There is a national emergency in America. It's called Individual One." And Individual One, of course, is the term used to refer to President Trump and his former lawyer Michael Cohen's court papers.
Well, there is no national emergency at the border. It's all made up. It's presidential fiction.
Peddling conspiracy theories. The more we learn, the worse it gets for Donald Trump and for all of the president's men. That's clear, and Bob Mueller is running a thorough, comprehensive investigation, and he's going to get to the bottom of what happened on behalf of the American people.
Hunter Biden, of course, is entitled, as was Donald Trump, to the presumption of innocence.
What we know is that you've got potential money laundering that may have occurred prior to the campaign with Donald Trump as a private citizen, so-called businessman, peddling conspiracy theories. You've got possible conspiracy with Russian spies to sell out our democracy that occurred during the campaign. I think Bob Mueller is going to look for motive and opportunity, perhaps as it relates to interactions that had occurred with these oligarchs.
As was Donald Trump, to the presumption of innocence.
Potential obstruction of justice that occurred with Donald Trump as president to cover up what may have occurred, either as it relates to possible money laundering or as it relates to the conspiracy to sell out our democracy.
Those are a lot of the theories.
Peddling conspiracy theories. What did the president know and when did he know it? We do know that Russia, a foreign power, interfered in our election for the purpose of artificially elevating Donald Trump into 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Peddling conspiracy theories.
We have a hater in the White House, the birther-in-chief, the Grand Wizard of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Peddling conspiracy theories.
Next couple of days, what would be your question to Greer about these tariffs?
The Trump tariffs, which are a tax on the American people, are so reckless, so unstrategic, so lacking in any sophistication.
But President Trump just dropped a bombshell update on the China trade war. China slashed their tariffs down to 10%. You heard that right, 10%. This is huge. And it's all because of Trump's relentless trade pressure.
If you are the Chinese, what have you learned about the art of the deal?
China punked the administration, and the administration backed down. That's no surprise because we've seen that happen over and over and over again.
It appears now that his strategy was to hit them hard with tariffs, make them feel the pain, and force them to come to the table. And it's working. China's now waving the white flag, cutting their tariffs to a measly 10%.
China punked the administration.
Peddling conspiracy theories.
They are trying to enact one of the largest health care cuts in American history, if not the largest. At this point, it looks like $715 billion
in cuts to Medicaid that will devastate children and families and seniors and everyday Americans with disabilities. Hospitals could close.
So do you disagree with the cuts that are being proposed for Medicaid right now?
Oh, the cuts to, this is I don't know if you understand this or whether you're just mouthing, the Democratic talking points. The cuts to Medicaid are for fraud, waste, and abuse. And I'll tell you what that means. It means that because of DOGE, we were able to determine, and it's about 8 million people who would be affected. There are another million people who are collecting both under Obamacare and
Secretary, that has nothing to do with the budget that's actually being proposed. These are the only cuts that are being made.
These are the only cuts that are being made to Medicaid.
That's not true.
Yes, it is. There are another million illegal aliens. We announced a law yesterday, a rule yesterday, we're not going to pay illegal aliens anymore. And guess what Gavin Newsom did this morning? He said we're going to take all the illegal aliens off the California Medicaid rolls because the feds aren't paying for them anymore.
Let's work together. Following the leadership of President Joe Biden, whose record continues to move things in an incredibly positive direction for the American people. Wages are up. Inflation is down. The high cost of living in the United States of America. It's a challenge that we need to tackle. They promised that costs would go down on day one, that they would address inflation. Costs haven't gone down. They're going up. Inflation is going up. And a lot of it has to do with Trump's reckless mismanagement of the economy.
There is a cloud of illegitimacy around the election of Donald Trump.
Russia interfered with our election, attacked our democracy for the sole purpose of artificially placing someone at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. They were successful.
There is clearly a cloud of illegitimacy hanging over 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue that's growing bigger by the day.
There's a cloud of illegitimacy that continues to hang over 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
So-called president of the United States.
So-called president.
So-called president.
So-called president.
What do you say to Americans who believe you and other top Democrats misled them?
Well, Joe Biden was the incumbent president at the time. He was the candidate at the time. And I supported him at the time, and that was the right thing to do.